AskReddit by Darth Boot. George Carlin said, think of how stupid the average person is, and realize half of them are stupider than that. What real life example have you seen that validates this view? I'm a physician. I doctor specifically. I will tell you that the longer I work, now 15 years, my standard for the average person continues to decline. Case in point, thanks to the awful information filtering out there, I had a patient just last week who read that vitamin D helps you resist a coronavirus infection. Well, he had also read that you can get more vitamin D by getting more sun. So he wanted to collect as much light as possible with his eyes. As a result, he stared at the sun for a solid 60 seconds and burned holes directly into his retinas, permanently reducing his vision with no chance at future improvement. This is awful, but it is also hilarious. And X200B. I am sorry if you had to explain to this person what they had done. One guy I met said that English is the true language of God because the Bible is written in English. The amount of people who think Jesus lived in the United States is astonishing. Oof. Good one. Okay, so my favorite was a guy who was planning his honeymoon but he didn't have a lot of money. He was bummed about the cost of their travel. A friend suggested a train ride might be cheaper. He became frustrated after a few days of trying and complained that he couldn't find any trains going to Hawaii. It still didn't sink in because he had seen pictures of trains in Hawaii. He couldn't grasp that they were shipped there. It got even more surreal after that. Customers arguing that their tattoo is backwards while their artist tries to explain that no, your tattoo is fine, it just looks backwards because that's how mirrors work. Deleted. A girl in one of my college classes argued that heart transplants shouldn't be allowed because that's where the feelings are and the person receiving the heart wouldn't be the same person anymore. That's actually pretty funny if it wasn't so sad. I mean, it's obviously fake if one thinks about it, but I could see someone taking just the right classes to make it that far without knowing the truth simply because it never came up. I do aquatic habitat restoration in a spring-fed river that people frequently tube float on. Myself and numerous others have been asked if it comes back around so they can get out. I literally had to read this prompt 5 times because the idea that the water in a river would come around like a Disney World ride was just so alien to my mind that the sentence was not computing. Friend of mine showered in cold water for a year cause he never thought of turning the other tap to see what it would do. That's the dumbest thing I've read in this thread so far. I used to work for a chatbot app. Our app would text our users every morning with a greeting in a different language, that is hola, bonjour, etc. One day we got blown up by a user saying their account was hacked. She said, "My name is Kim Smith, not Kim Kanajiwa. Someone's hacked my account." When we explained that our service has been clearly saying hello to her in other languages every day and that konnichiwa is hello in Japanese and her account was fine, she went on a racist rant and said Disney was behind the destruction of America. Yep. I think I am not the only one who wants details here. Pretty please. Old boss had a morning routine of walking around the office with a bucket. He was watering all of the plastic flowers. Okay, I have been unfortunately guilty of this one time. A new girl started at work and she sat across from me, so we shared some desk space in the corner. She put these flowers there with a special vase that made it look like real water in the bottom. As a nice gesture I watered them for her before one weekend. She got a huge kick out of it, and we laughed about it all the time. I just had a customer yell at me for putting their eggs in a separate bag, saying they don't want all those bags and the paper ones always rip, before putting it in the bag and throwing a pound of flour on top. It was somewhat satisfying seeing their face as we heard the cracks, until I realized I'm the one who needed to clean it up. Oh, also she complained that we hadn't warned her about the fragility of eggs. I had a lady scold me because I placed a bag of potato chips on top of her egg carton. Guess, She didn't notice that the egg cartons in the cooler were stacked about 6 high. At the DMV. I went to renew my license. I was waiting in a room with the computers that people use to take the written portion. The clerk sat a man down, looked him in the eyes and said, if you pull your phone out it's an automatic fail. The window licker says 8 while pulling out his phone and immediately failing. I saw a guy in front of me at the DMV fail the eye test and tell the employee he has glasses but they are at home. He got really mad when the employee told him he has to come back with the glasses and retake it. The Georgia senator that wanted to prevent sending troops to an island because he was worried it would capsize. Deleted. About half the calls I take on a daily basis. People call 911 to ask whether Walmart is open. To report that they didn't get enough mayo on their burger. To complain that cleanup at a fatality wreck is taking too long. All sorts of silly, out of touch shit. Granted, there is probably some level of mental illness and or substance abuse present in those calls. But still. Sounds like this can be an entire AskReddit thread itself. Getting a misdialed call from a random person who gets mad at you because you're not the one he/she was looking for. Happens with me several times a year. I kept getting voicemails from some dude I didn't know, really angry shit like yelling at an ex or something. First time I actually answered I told him wrong number. Several voicemails later and I answered again and said, I've told you this is the wrong number, you need to stop calling me. His response was, you need to stop telling me what to do. I once owned a smart car and some stranger approached me at a gas station about why I didn't have a slow vehicle sign in the back of it, since all moped cars must have that. I tried explaining that it was a real car just a bit smaller but he didn't take it. According to him I was driving illegally and he was surprised the police hadn't stopped me yet on the highway. My family has 2 electric cars and the sheer number of people who ask yes but where do you put the gas after explaining that it runs on batteries is staggering. I think it's because they're still thinking hybrid car rather than all electric car, but even after a very thorough explanation they often still go back to where's the gas go? My dad is a pesticide investigator for the state and heard this on a complaint. I set out all these bird feeders and bird baths but not one bird comes to my yard. I bet it is all those pesticides that crop duster is laying down in the field. Local school board member, as they were standing in her 5-acre yard with 20 or more cats running around. At the start of working from home due to COVID, I had a few users submit tickets for connectivity issues. These tickets got through to lines of support before landing in my queue. Turns out that the corporate Wi-Fi doesn't follow you home and you need home internet in order to connect to the VPN. I recently spent 20 minutes on the phone with a board member, trying to diagnose why his camera wasn't working for our online meetings. Funny thing, you have to actually have a camera in order for it to work. I used to manage a retail store that sold teen clothing, so as expected, I primarily had teens working for me. One employee came to the back room while I was on break and asked what I was eating. Somehow the topic turned to how I should have brought chicken for lunch because she wanted chicken. I told her I was vegetarian and therefore don't eat meat. She tells me chicken is not meat. It's poultry, and vegetarians can eat poultry. She said at the grocery store the aisles list meat and poultry separately, so they're obviously different. We argued for a couple of minutes before I finally told her to go back to the sales floor. She didn't last at the job long, but damn. Wait, you should have brought chicken because she wanted some? Mom. You know the reason you bury a rattlesnake after you kill it is because bees will eat it. Then bees can sting people with rattlesnake venom. Guy I heard constantly trying to pick up women on public transit. That sounds like a sick superpower though. I worked in retail for a few years and it taught me that many people are either incapable or unwilling to read. I have had people walk up to me to ask me how much something is, only for the price tag to be featured prominently on the item. It's $9.99, Mom. How did you know? It says so on the price tag, mom. The number of people who don't read menus at restaurants. It hurts me. Edit, spelling, because I think faster than my fingers can type. I worked with a lady who was remarking on how a friend of hers had lost a bunch of weight. She pondered, I wonder how many Diet Cokes she had to drink to do that. Edit, same lady was convinced beyond repair that when you sneeze, the air only comes out of your nose. There was no convincing her otherwise. Man, this made me a little sad. People are so susceptible to marketing these days that they think just because something is called diet it must be good for them. Reminds me of my flatmate from uni who used to drink smart water before taking exams. I teach 6th grade. One time a parent came to me after trying to help their child with math homework and asked, what number is X worth? It feels like it changes with every problem. I don't know if this is satire or not, but good job. There is a considerable overlap between the intelligence of the smartest bears and the dumbest tourists. Yosemite Park Ranger on why it's hard to design a bear-proof garbage can. I genuinely thought that was about to be a Yogi Bear quote. I worked at a bank. Mobile depositing had just became a thing. We received a picture of someone's cash for deposit. Yay. See bro. Just wait like 2 hours and take another photo of the same cash and deposit it again and again and again. Whoa, instant money. Yeah bro, instant money. Fuck, we're gonna be so rich off this $84. A woman I used to work with who insisted that any animal could reproduce with any other animal. She believed that sperm from any animal was the same and that DNA was irrelevant. She believed this because she once saw some sickly, possibly deformed puppies and decided that they must have been half dog and half rat. Ah yes, rat terriers. A former co-worker was talking about how she wanted to go back to school to get her master's degree because she only had a bachelorette degree and wanted more job opportunities. I said, do you mean a bachelor's degree? She insisted it was pronounced bachelorette when it was given to a woman. Then she led me back to her office and pointed at her diploma, to the word baccalaureate, and said, see? Bachelorette. I had a co-worker, really sweet girl but dumb as shit, tell me she smoked American spirits because they were non-addictive. See as she showed me the box. Oh, honey, no. That says no additives. Such a sweet, stupid girl. She was a good server, at least. I had a bald man return a hairdryer because it burned his head. Deleted. Every time I put on my glasses so I can see better while looking for my glasses. Using the flashlight on your phone to find your phone in the dark. Was at a party and someone's shitty old truck got stuck in some mud, so instead of sobering up and coming back the next day, he makes a Molotov cocktail with gas and throws it at the truck. The truck caught fire and was completely destroyed. Jason? When I was in high school, we were reading a short story about what would have happened if the Japanese attacked us back with nuclear weapons after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A girl in my class raised her hand and said something along the lines of, why does this matter? None of it is real anyway. The teacher had to ask her to clarify, but this girl thought WWII and the bombing of Japan were just from a movie and didn't actually happen. The best part is, the girl was half Japanese. Edit, wow, thank you for all of the upvotes. I have a ton more stories about this girl, so maybe I'll post some on a different subreddit soon. Wow, her mind must have been blown when she found out WWII happened. I work in it. I once had a lady call me from home because she couldn't get connected to her VPN. I asked her if she was connected to her home wireless network. She replied saying that she did not have home wireless. I then asked how she was connecting to the internet. Her reply was, I'm using the cell tower. I can see it from my house. While this is technically possible with a hotspot or cellular card in your PC, This isn't what she meant. She thought she could get internet service via Wi-Fi from the cell tower. The woman that called into a radio station to complain about the deer crossing signs on a highway, saying that the deer will see the sign and consider this place a safe place to cross the road. https://www.youtube.com/watch?var/fcrj right square bracket open bracket https://www.youtube.com watch v equals rfcrj deleted. When farms have trouble producing their crops, and you ask some dipshit if that worries them, I don't get my food from a farm, I get it from Walmart. The distance that many people have from where their food comes from is shocking. I'm an insurance claims adjuster. If you truly knew how many stupid drivers you're sharing the road with, you'd never drive again. Edit because I keep getting this question. I avoid driving whenever possible. I have a car, but I take the bus to from work. I never drive at night. I work in highway safety, can confirm. I can no longer count on two hands the number of people I've stopped with in the middle lane of traffic on a freeway, with no bigger problem than a flat tire. When I question them as to why they stopped in the middle of a freeway, the typical answer is either the vehicle wouldn't go any further, or they don't want to damage their rim. I swear to whatever you want me to swear to, people will put the well-being of the rim on their car above their own safety and even the safety of their children. On 9/11 the general manager called his daughter who was attending ASU to wake her up and make sure she saw what was going on. The customer service manager said, "It won't be on her TV yet, Arizona is 2 hours behind us." Why didn't Australia warn us about 9/11? After all, they are several hours ahead. I work at a restaurant. We were low on tomatoes for our tomato soup, so one person grabbed potatoes to see if we could use those instead. Well, don't keep us waiting, could you? When my mum unironically claimed that the moon landing was fake because the moon was like 40 times the size of Earth. How that proves it was fake I don't know. Hate to think she raised me lol. I worked at Little Caesars and we were proofing the dough for pizza. My boss said, at 7 PM, that the dough needed to rise for 12 hours, and took out her calculator to do the math. So I said that's gonna be 7 AM. Then she said the dough will expire in 48 hours and started doing the math again. I told her it would expire 2 days from now, and she said that's kinda weird how that works out, huh? I quit shortly after that. The most surprising thing here for me is that Little Caesars bakes fresh dough. Not necessarily the exact thing you're looking for, but when I was in high school I once had a friend come up to me bragging about his SAT. I recognized immediately that he got a pretty poor score. When I mentioned to him that I didn't think it was a very good score, he confidently proclaimed, "But it says I'm smarter than 15% of juniors, and I'm only a sophomore." To which I rebutted, "Yeah, but imagine the dumbest 15% of people. That's not very good." I had a friend once who truly believed that magicians like Chris Angel and David Blaine had some kind of magical power or telekinesis, something along those lines. While watching one of those magicians on TV performing on the street, he argued, "How could this be fake? Look at all those people. Can't fake all that. Has to be some kind of power or magic." I would then have to ask, do you realize that movies are fake? They fake entire universes, planets, cities, war, etc. He didn't get what I was getting at. Right, I know it's fake, but I do enjoy trying to figure out how they did it. Also, it's just cool as shit what they can come up with, especially in live performances. At a work Christmas party in a Mexican restaurant, an Irish colleague was trying to argue the pronunciation of jalapenos with the Mexican waitress was jalapenos. He wasn't joking and got so upset with her taking the piss out of him that he made a scene and we almost got thrown out. In grade 10, we had a science test, and the teacher gave 1 point for putting a date on the paper, and 1 point for your name on the paper, and then there were 98 points for the rest of the test. A guy sitting in front of me got 0.5/100, didn't write the date and only wrote his first name. That's fucking hilarious. Reminds me of the time my classmate copied the test answers of my other smarter classmate in 2nd grade. He got caught because he copied the name too. Deleted. I guess she at some point she heard that if you love dolphins you shouldn't eat tuna and thought tuna is what we call dolphin meat, like we call pig meat pork or cow meat beef. Just scroll down a web page or Facebook feed and have a look at the ads. Things like only 2% can solve this puzzle shit like that. Those ads get posted so much because they actually work on a lot of people. Deleted. One of my closest friends. Really good guy but well. I'm learning Spanish and I once told him I was reading this Don Quixote book. I complained about how difficult it was because it was written in 1605. And he said wait. Spanish existed back then? That trick where you call water by a scary chemical name like dihydrogen monoxide so that people will want to regulate or ban it. My local pool contains high quantities of a chemical used in industrial cleaning solutions, and is used to cool nuclear reactors. Think of the children. High school. History. Topic, Titanic. So the iceberg was about the size of a, yes missed. Don't icebergs fall out of the sky? To this day I picture a iceberg the size of a small island falling from the sky being seen 400s of miles away like a fucking meteor. I once got into an argument with someone over my own name. There are two pronunciations, German and English. And they just couldn't accept the fact that I use the English pronunciation despite the fact that we were speaking English and it's what I've used my whole life, but nope, I was lying to mess with them. I've got two little girls who were born 15 months apart. They look pretty similar, and we get asked if they're twins pretty often. Even though one is quite a bit taller, you'd be forgiven for thinking they were fraternal twins. But yeah. I once got into an argument with somebody over whether my daughters are twins or not. It wasn't until I pointed out that I was literally there, watching them being birthed, that they finally conceded. Knew a kid who drank bleach to prove it wouldn't kill you. A week later he showed up at school after taking a shot. He said he proved his point when the teacher asked why he was bragging about it. Mr. Hawk just said, but you cannot argue that without that medical treatment you'd have died, though you even said you have stomach damage and a burn esophagus yourself. This kid was bragging about that. He was not mentally disabled or otherwise. He was just that kind of idiot. Edit. Thank you all. Who'd have thought my most upvoted comment would be about some kid I knew drinking literal bleach. RIP my inbox. I knew a girl in high school who wanted to breathe fire. She put lighter fluid in her mouth and instead of blowing it onto a flame, she lit it on fire inside her mouth and then tried to blow it out. She came to school the next day with a bandage over half her face. The fact Florida had to tell people not to shoot at the hurricane. There were people in Adana, Turkey that shot at the sun because it was too hot.